Welcome to episode 230 of the Grip Strip podcast, the avoidable contact edition of the Grip Strip podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my co-host, as always, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, computer genius, a gentleman and a scholar. His name is Josh Fine. What's going on, man?
Doing great, Phil. Of course, back home again in Indiana for the Oval NASCAR this weekend, which, glad to see that happen again. Of course, attempted to add my sim racing titles with the Brickyard 400, came in top 5. We'll talk about that later. So did that, but yeah, a lot of exciting racing, I think, all around. A lot to talk about. So yeah, ready to get into it.
Yeah, plenty to get into this week in the last week before the Olympic break. And for Formula One also leading up to their summer break. So it's going to be a lot of time off between racing series. But this week we definitely have something to talk about. Brickyard 430th anniversary of the original. Went 7 laps post scheduled distance and saw Larson get the victory, but it wasn't as straightforward as most of his victories seem to be. Issues with restarts, a god-awful block, NASCAR deciding to hold a yellow for no apparent reason, etc., etc. Kyle Larson gets a victory, retakes the points lead, and becomes the first driver this year at 4 wins. So, yeah, we'll get in all the happenings at the Brickyard. For the Cup Series and Xfinity, Riley Herbst, which is just insane. Riley Herbst went and drifted through turn 4 at Indianapolis and somehow or another saved it and won at Indianapolis, which is just mind-numbing. But the guy is also going to be going to Cup. So it was a great weekend for Cole Custer. He probably was the best car. Got in a little door-slamming battle with Herbst and ended up third, but still gained points. Al Murillo in his first race back since he got in a fight with Bubba, finished second. It was an alternative package with less horsepower and bigger spoiler and the whole bit in front of about 20 people. But, I mean, for SHR, it actually was a good day. It has been rare in the last few years for SHR to actually have good days in NASCAR, but they definitely did on Saturday at the Brickyard. On Friday night at IRP, where the Xfinity car should have been on Saturday instead of the big track, Ty Majeski became a repeat winner at Raceway Park and locked himself into the Truck Series playoffs. Corey Heim showed once again why he probably is a question mark in terms of his maturity after getting into it with Christian Eckes, his biggest rival for the Truck Series title. So all that going on in NASCAR and IndyCar, Colton Herta and Andretti Global opened a can at one of Michael Andretti's best tracks at the streets of Toronto. Andretti won 2 with Herta and Kirkwood. Ganassi 3-4 Honda's taking up the majority of the top 10 since a lot of the Chevys were involved in various instances of argy-bargy, as Calvin Fish would say, and Penske having a rare off day in general. So we'll get into all that. Formula One saw Oscar Piastri get his first career Formula One victory over his teammate Lando, who blew yet another start because he's so great. And then Sir Lewis Hamilton earned his 200th career podium of his illustrious career, even with Fish Lips trying to launch himself into outer space over using Lewis's car. Fish Lips definitely was on his time of the month. Was not happy from the start, whether it was pit strategy, whether it was the way the car turned, whether the way the car handled, the tires, the fact that his ass itched. I don't know. Everything was wrong for Fish Lips because he actually had to drive a race car. So we'll get in all that. They're going to Spa this coming weekend, so we'll preview the Belgian Grand Prix as they lead into their summer break. Got plenty to talk about in terms of the way McLaren handled that race too. F2 and F3 was at Hungary as part of. We'll start with the roundup. F2 and F3 at Hungary, and last week Spa, this week NHRA in the first of the doubleheader, the Western Swing Seattle this past weekend, and then Sonoma this weekend. World Superbikes in the Czech Republic, Supercars in Sydney, Rally Latvia, and then Formula E ended their season in London with a new world champion there. We'll preview and make our picks for the Belgian Grand Prix. If we have time, we'll talk a little bit about the NFL, since training camps will be opening here this week. Josh will let us know what he did in the iRacing Brickyard 400 and everything else on his sim segment, and then we'll call it a day. So yeah, the Brickyard 400, first time in a few years they ran on the oval. It was, it honestly wasn't a bad race. I mean, for an Indianapolis, an IMS Dakar race, honestly wasn't that bad. I have to say. You had 18 lead changes amongst 13 drivers. I'm pretty certain that's one of the highest number of leaders and lead changes ever in the history of that race. You had numerous strategies going on, which I think also assisted with that. But I mean, it made the race a little bit more intriguing. It made you actually have to really think and be connected with it, which is nice. It's kind of, that's part of what makes Pocono great. So I mean, it's the same way here with IMS to a lesser extent. But I mean, in the end, Ryan Blaney was up there leading the race, or had a chance to lead, or close to the lead. I said he was leading the race. He never got a chance to, actually, but up front all day trying to win his third race in his, last 5 or something. You had Tyler Reddick, who started on pole, and other guys like Denny Hamlin won the first stage, started on the outside pole, won the first stage. Darrell Wallace Jr. won the second stage. There were multiple guys that had double-digit laps led. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 drivers, and 2 of them were those, or 3 of them were the Hamlin and his 2 drivers. And then you had Brad Keselowski, John Hunter Nemechek. That also led a lot of laps. John Hunter Nemechek showed both sides of what John Hunter Nemechek is on this day. We saw the driving ability that he seemingly does have when he's given an opportunity up front. And then we also saw why people hate John Hunter Nemechek, because he does boneheaded moves in this race. But in all of that, in the end, Brad Keselowski led late, was trying to do an epic fuel save, and promptly ran out going to the green-white checkered restart, pulled off on a pit road. Kyle Larson moved in on the inside, jumped the restart. They didn't call it because he was in the control car. They didn't call the jump on the restart. He goes and passes Ryan Blaney and takes the lead, which essentially he never gave up at that point. Kyle Larson gets the Brickyard 400 victory. He ran the Indy 500 with a similar scheme and was in position for a top 10 before a speeding penalty. They brought back the scheme because he didn't get to race at the Coca-Cola 600. Allgaier ended up running it, and they were going to get him in the car, and then it rained. So they get to run it here and sell a bunch of merch in the process. So, Fat Felon was there. Jeffy was there. Seemed convenient. But Kyle Larson, the winner of the Brickyard 400 over Tyler Reddick. Ryan Blaney finishes third. Christopher Bell fourth. Darrell Walsh Jr. fifth. So 3 Toyotas in the top 5. Todd Gilliland continuing his strong recent stretch, finishing 6th. Austin Cindric started basically tailback and finished 7th. Daniel Suarez 8th. On his way to get married. Noah Gagson finished 9th. William Clyde Elliott II finished 10th. Richard finished 11th and wasn't too bad the whole day. Trying to go through here. 24 cars were on the lead lap at the end of the race. We went through the top 11 there. Other drivers, you got was it Ross Chastain, who's battling for a playoff spot? He finished 15th. Brad Keselowski in the end finished 21st after having to pit for fuel. Christopher Buescher finished right behind him. Keebler Gibbs finished 23rd. Chase Briscoe, who was part of one of the yellows along with his teammate Ryan Preece. Briscoe finished on the lead lap, last car on the lead lap, even with a destroyed race car. Ryan Preece was 22 positions behind him and finished 2 laps down. Kyle Busch, sandwiched between them, was in a position to get a good finish and then was involved in a wreck because Denny Hamlin used him up. So took away another opportunity to a top 10 finish for Kyle in arguably his worst season of his career. Or I don't even know if it's really an argument. I think it is the worst season of his career. Truex had issues on the day and finished 27th in his last Brickyard 400. I brought up John Hunter Nemechek. He caused a big wreck late in the race with a bad block on Daniel Hemrick, who was running up front for a good part of late stages of the race. So a rare instance of Daniel Hemrick also being up front. Alex Bowman, coming off of all the momentum he's had recently, got piled into that wreck along with Hamlin. And so those were some of those guys. Jimmy Johnson, the 4-time winner of the Brickyard 400, got taken out in a multi-car wreck that was partially triggered by Carson Osavar. Joey Logano also was a part of that deal. So Logano trying to get that Brickyard win for Roger Penske couldn't do it because he was in the fence. Josh Berry had a brutal day with Caitlin Clark on the car. Lost a lot of points towards trying to make the playoff. Harrison Burton was a part of a wreck with AJ Allmendinger. That was part of the wreck with AJ Allmendinger, Byron, which was a concertina effect, whatever, cars all getting stacked up coming off of 2. Chase Briscoe and Preece were in front of that, and Briscoe checked up, and then Byron hit him, and then Byron proceeded to go and call Chase Briscoe a squirrel. So, yeah, I mean, a lot went on there, but in the grand scheme, Larson goes and gets Hendrick yet another Brickyard 400 victory. He was the fastest car late in the race because he was on the right strategy, seemingly. But once he got closer to the front, he was starting to struggle with the dirty air. Couldn't get around Ryan Blaney on merit. So in theory, if you run it out, I think it would have been a pretty good battle between him and Blaney, but it never materialized because of the cautions and all. But Larson gets another victory, solidifies his opportunity to go and win a second championship, and gets another major in the process.
Yeah, I mean, he also, in addition to him winning, now there can't be more than 16 winners in the playoffs. So now all the guys with one win will have a chance, or are now qualified into the playoffs. So that helps them as well. And also for those four guys, they still have 4 opportunities to go out and win a race that haven't won yet. So there's that. But yeah, as for Larson, I think you have to appreciate what he was able to do in the last 25 laps or so of that race, which they were really enabled to go on that strategy because of their issues that they had on pit road. They had a loose wheel, and that allowed them to go aggressive on the strategy towards the end. They had more fuel than everybody else and able to take that risk and overtake. And yes, I mean, a lot of guys in front of him were going half throttle trying to make it to the end, but you still have to appreciate the way that he was able to overtake those guys. And saying it on Twitter earlier today, but I think he really learned something from his run in the Indianapolis 500 and running the Indycar during the month of May. And I think definitely with the similarities of the next gen to the Indycar, definitely was able to take some of what he learned and applied it to how he's able to overtake with the next gen car here. And definitely some of those late moves that he was making into turn 1 and turn 3, that I think definitely comes from that IndyCar experience, because definitely looked like something that you had seen an IndyCar driver possibly make, popping out of line late going into those turns there. So definitely think that experience helped him there. And also you were seeing him begin to kind of catch up to Blaney while it was still under green. It was gonna be close, but you could see him running kind of that, I guess, IndyCar line, trying to get up to Blaney to try and pass him there. But which I think it could have happened if he had another lap or two there, which I think the last caution came with like 3 laps to go. So it was going to be close, but definitely it was going to be an interesting battle there, which we didn't really get to see. But the restart there, which a lot of people are talking about. I guess the technicality of it, which I think that's the rules, that if you pull over, then whoever's behind you inherits the spot, which I guess, I mean, that's how it works in iRacing. That's kind of what I'm going off of, because, in iRacing, if that happens, then you just cover the spot or whoever's behind you. So that's kind of what I was thinking. And then, of course, it looked like he jumped the start, which I think, him quickly accelerating to take the spot, and then also being in the restart zone, definitely looked like it. But I think, if you kind of break it down, they kind of took off at about the same time. So, there's that. But it's just a really unfortunate situation for Blaney to be in there, which I think just kind of bad luck on there. But now do we go and re-rack the running order if the starting order has been misaligned or something like that, or do they make a rule change? Because I think it's definitely within the rules of what happened, but definitely never seen it. I guess in played out in practice like that. So that's something I guess perhaps NASCAR will look at. And then I guess the other point to make is the caution waiting to throw the yellow when Ryan Preece is clearly given up. And was also incapacitated there, I guess, with the right front tire flat and unable to drive the car. They're waiting till the white flag had flown to throw that, which a lot of people are saying that, well, that's NASCAR playing favorites, but I mean they've done it in the past. They did it with Hamlin last year at Pocono, and they've done it with several other guys. So over the course, so I sure you can say that, but yeah, I think it's bias, or not bias, but it's just incompetence on there. And then also, I was thinking about it, like, also the fact that we had Nashville a few weeks ago have 7 overtime, and we're already at 1 overtime here, and NASCAR, perhaps maybe they were like, well, we don't really want to tarnish the Brickyard by having multiple overtimes like that, and the drivers making a fool out of themselves. Perhaps that was on their mind too. But then also in that same Nashville race, they were also very quick to throw the yellow when Austin Cindric spun out on the backstretch, and then also Ryan Preece, Josh Berry was the one that spun out in turn 3, and I think they threw the yellow as they were coming to get the white flag. I think in that situation there in one of those overtimes. So a lot of inconsistency there, of course, and more inconsistency with how the blend line is supposed to work, because you saw Chase Elliott go over the onto the racing surface, Brad Keselowski racing surface, Kyle Larson I think also did barely go over the line, but not to the extent that Chase Elliott or Keselowski did. So there's a lot of topic there and debate there, but the strategy, I think, was what made that race interesting. Because otherwise, like, Tyler Reddick led a ton of laps in that. Keselowski led a ton of laps, and somehow was almost able to win on fuel strategy, but then the pickup just didn't go there. So passing was still, for the lead was still a problem, as it's been, but and part of it is the surface with Indy and everything, but I think the strategy was able to kind of play out to favor Larson and others that were on that same fuel strategy there. So from that definitely made the race compelling, and definitely made it worthy of I guess lore of the 30th anniversary there. So there's that, and I guess last thing I'll say is that we talked about, I guess, previewing this race. So I said William Byron 24 car will win every 4 years. It seems like the 24 car wins in Indianapolis for the 400, but the guy that people said was the next Jeff Gordon, all the way back when Kyle Larson was coming up, ended up winning that. So I guess little redemption there for how Indy 500 and Coke 600 kind of played out for him there.
Yeah, he goes and gets that redemption arc, and they get to sell plenty of merch. And even though the 24 didn't win, because Will Byron was out there in the back because of the strategy, and he got involved in a wreck, and because Briscoe was there, he called him a squirrel, and it's like, it takes one to know one, because he was a squirrel for I don't know how many years in his Cup career. Before that next gen, I think it was the last year of the Gen 6 where he actually, I think, finally found some level of relevancy. And then once the Gen 7 car came along, then he became then he became where he is right now. But I mean, dude, you backdoored virtually every win. Virtually every one of your wins has been a backdoor win. You have the personality of Toast. Like, the fuck, or who the hell are you? I mean, your dad works for one of the most pathetic, corrupt, disgusting universities that exist. that isn't connected to an orange mongoloid. I mean, the fact of the matter is you've never won a damn championship. Your teammates, you have two teammates that have won championships, won way more races than you have. So suck it up, actually become consistent through a whole season and win a championship. And it's entirely possible he can. No reason why he can't, because it's Hendrick. Of course, they want that to happen. So, but like, shut the hell up. You're not that fucking important. To be fair, you're basically third on the totem pole anyways in that race team. And you're lucky that Alex Bowman is there, or else you'd be the worst driver on the team, which, I mean, whatever, it is what it is, because he does have talent, but he's also a hack. And so I guess that's part of what you have to be in NASCAR now. I guess you have to be hacky, and have a god-awful personality. Thanks to Jeff Gordon. That's really, it all started with Jeffy, to be fair. And now they have 4 guys who make toothpaste seem exciting. So, I mean, for Larson, though, goes and gets a victory. Blaney wanting to get the double for Penske at Penske's racetrack. Unfortunately, wasn't able to do so. Moving on to the points, Larson retakes the points lead by 10 over Clyde. First to 4 wins, as I mentioned. And Reddick is 15 points back in third, so that's actually very interesting. Number of races that Tyler Reddick's given away, and finished second or whatever. He's only 15 points out, and it's kind of scary to think that if he could get those 15 playoff points, he's only got 1 win so far this year, and he's been pretty damn consistent. You have you have multiple road courses in the playoffs. You have certain tracks that are definitely in the favor of Toyota. He's a definite factor with those 2 Hendrick cars. And then Denny Hamlin ended up bad, but he's up there. Larson, Hamlin, Byron, Christopher Bell right now, and Blaney are your top 5 based on the wins. Then Clyde, Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, and Gumby Cindric. The 12 winners so far in 2024. Martin Truex is plus 112 over the cut line. Then it becomes sort of a sweat. Keebler Gibbs with the brutal day fell to plus 46. In 14th, and Christopher Buescher's plus 21, Ross Chastain's plus 7 over Darrell Walsh Jr., who got that stage win and a top 5 finish. Briscoe, after being in the top 10 there late and going to pit with Hamlin, basically every one of those people that were involved in that wreck went to pit to go and guarantee fuel and put fresh tires. Lost points now is 83 points back in 18th, 83 points back to the cut line. And then Kyle Busch is, what did that say? Is it 10? Yeah. He's 112 behind the cut line. I'm looking at a different person there. Chase Briscoe. Suarez was the one ahead of him. Okay. Yeah, he's 112 points out. So let's be honest here. Outside of Darrell Walsh Jr., you got 4 races to go in the regular season. If you're not him or anybody that's above him, you're gonna need to win to get the job done. But we don't have to worry about that for 3 weeks, in the sense of the Cup Series. So they'll have the Olympic break there, and we'll see how it goes once they come back at Richmond on Sunday, the August 11th, for that race there. All right, so let's move forward to the Xfinity Series. They will have even longer break, nearly a month break, 25 days. So, 4 weeks off. And but before that, they ran the Pennzoil 250, and it was a Stewart-Haas Racing benefit, to be fair. It's weird to say that since it doesn't seem to ever happen anymore. It used to be a thing. Cole Custer and Riley Herbst were on the front row. Riley Herbst actually won the first stage. Custer was up front a good amount of the day, led the most laps. 77 of the race's 100 laps were led by those two drivers. And and then you had Buckshot Jones actually led 10 laps. Wow. Herbst ends up in there was a 3 driver battle there with Almirola. Those are the 3 best cars the whole day. Herbst gets the win with that drift, goes and drives side by side, gets in a door battle with Custer. After Custer announces that he's going back to Cup next year in a Roush Fenway Keselowski supported Ford. Herbst over Custer, Almirola third. Shane Van Gisbergen gets his best, I think ties his best oval finish of the season. Maybe he has something better. I don't think so. I think 4th place is his best oval finish, but great run for him there. Sheldon Creed with a top 5 finish. Hank Hill in 6th. Daniel Dye, who caused one of the cautions, finished 7th. AJ Allmendinger in 8th. Justin Allgaier in 9th. Carson Kvapil rounding out the top 10. Ryan Sieg actually got a stage win, finished 11th. Parker Kligerman was 12th. Other people who had stage points, Buckshot Jones, as I mentioned earlier, finished 15th. Matt DiBurrito was 16th. Leland Honeyman, 20th. And there was give a shout out to Jesse Love, who had no right front corner on his car after the first lap wreck, to go and somehow or another salvage a top 15 finish. And then Connor Daly, who was running further up than that and actually seemed to be having a good time and running really well in that Sam Hunt Toyota. It's an interesting thing considering Connor Daly doesn't really have permanent job security ever, really. So maybe that's what he does. Maybe he goes the way of Marco and goes to NASCAR. But the difference is it seems like Connor Daly might actually be good at it. At least that's what he looked like on Saturday. But Riley Herbst, I mean, a few months ago, he had never won a race. He goes and wins at home at Las Vegas to finally win an Xfinity race, and now he's won at Indianapolis with his family there, on the cusp of probably getting a Cup ride next year, whether it's front row, whether it's whether it's 2311. It seems like Riley Herbst is going to get a promotion for whatever, good, bad, or indifferent. But on Saturday, he actually looked the part, maybe for the first time ever in his career. So you just got to take your hat off to him and give credit to the team, because Stewart-Haas Racing put 2 great race cars out there for one of the days at Indianapolis.
Yeah, they definitely put out 2 of the best cars that we've seen in the Xfinity Series this year. And Custer had a good run, but it seemed like as the race got yeah, as the run got longer, it seemed like Riley Herbst actually had the better car on pace. So, you kind of saw that at the end of stage one. Herbst took the stage over Custer, and stage two, he was better on strategy there. So, Herbst was able to take the lead there at the end. It seemed like he was too far back from Cole Custer to really do anything. But then, later on, as the laps started to wind down, you really started to see Riley Herbst close the gap. And then he was able to take the lead from Cole Custer on the final lap. But then as he was trying to do that, Almirola just rolls in and is able to take the lead for a moment there. And then Riley was able to repass him there going into the short chute of turn 3 and 4, which then Almirola tries to get to his right rear to slow him down, and Riley gets loose, and you can see in the photos after, like, that he was essentially crashed right there. So that was definitely a really exciting moment there. And I mean, great car control there. You have to give him a lot of credit for being able to hold on to it there and commit to making that corner to grab the win there. So that was definitely one of the more entertaining finishes I've seen in Xfinity in a while. And also, I probably think that that's up there in terms of finishes for the Xfinity Series in not the Xfinity Series, but also just in Indianapolis stock car history at the Speedway there. I think that's definitely up there, probably the best finish, to be honest. But just a great finish there. And, it shows that, it doesn't matter what package that they put on the Xfinity car, they figure out a way to put on good racing there. So, it seems, whatever reason, it races well no matter what. But the Xfinity car, just even at Indianapolis, just somehow works. But you saw, I mean, throughout the field, I mean, there was good racing, but still then, the best cars, it didn't get really trapped in clean air, really. But you saw the two best cars able to get their way back up to the field, so to get back to the front, and Riley ends up winning. So throughout all of that, great race throughout. I mean, Almirola had a shot there as well, but I think just wasn't going to be good enough to beat Riley Herbst back to the line there. So great entertaining race throughout for sure in the on Saturday in Xfinity, which we've harped on them going back to IRP, and for years this race was not that great. But maybe with this package here, if they continue to run the Xfinity cars at the Oval, maybe it'll work.
Sorry, I'm eating cashews now. I agree with your sentiments there in general. And I mean, that save that Riley Herbst had is going to be on highlight reels for a long time. So, for nothing else, Riley Herbst will have a highlight in his NASCAR career, and it's because of that save. So, credit to him on that. On a weekend where he got offered a deal possibly to stay at Haas to go and race in the Xfinity Series, but I doubt that he's going to need that, since it seems like he's in demand, which probably is something that we have to start looking at if Riley Herbst, yes, even with him winning on Saturday, if Riley Herbst is in demand, we have to start wondering about the viability of Cup teams. But Denny Hamlin's already come out and said it on Kenny Wallace's YouTube and podcast that the charter situation is not great. So maybe that's why he's going to go and call the Herbst family for their money. But either way, I mean, one of the best races he's ever had in a stock car. Whatever we can think of him or believe. Herbst goes and becomes the 8th different winner in the Xfinity Series. So go into the points standings. I had that open over there. Yeah, I mean, Sam Mayer got involved in a wreck lap 1 with Josh Berry. It was a multi-car incident in turn 3. They were going 3 wide there. I forget who the other car was that went to the right of him or whatever, and Sam Mayer had a similar kind of reaction or whatever. Oh no, that was the AJ Allmendinger. Okay, yeah, AJ Allmendinger was the other one there. And so yeah, that was a big wreck. Affected a lot of the people. I mentioned Jesse Love, who ended up having to run with that damage all day. Allmendinger still recovered. Retzloff was okay and then got involved in another big wreck. Connor Daly had damage and then still was able to make something of it. And those the rest of them, 1991, the Chandler Smith had engine issues or whatever. So continuing his poor stretch in the recent races. The points, Custer has a 56-point lead for the regular season title. In terms of playoff points, Shane Van Gisbergen has the most by 1 over Allgaier with his 3 wins. And so right, I'm looking at that. So you have the top 5 in points all have wins. So Custer, Allgaier, Hill, Smith, Chandler Smith, and then Riley Herbst. AJ Allmendinger, the best ranked regular that hasn't won yet. 6th, Jesse Love, and 7th, Sheldon Creed, Parker Kligerman, and Ryan Sieg making up the top 10. And Sammy Smith, Sam Mayer, who has 2 wins, Shane Van Gisbergen 3 wins. So those are... Yeah, Ryan Sieg right now has a 3-point lead after the run he had this past weekend over Sammy Smith. And then Buckshot Jones is minus 69 in 14th place. So that'll be a tough ask. But the thing for the Xfinity Series, they got 6 races before their playoffs even start. So there's still time for those drivers after they come back. You have 6 races. You have 2 kind of restrictor plate races. You have a road course, a short track, and then Michigan and Darlington. So a lot of variety there. So opportunities for the likes of Buckshot Jones, Michigan, I would say is an opportunity. Darlington, he's always run well at. You never know at Daytona or Atlanta. Not so sure about the Glen, and then Bristol. So we'll see what happens with that. 6 races to go in their regular season. The most out of any of the 3 major series. Speaking of the 3 major series, the other major series is the Craftsman Truck Series. They raced at Indianapolis Raceway Park, and Ty Majeski became a repeat winner at IRP in a truck with the win there. First is of the season, second Indy 4 Truck Series win of his career. Came back from a restart penalty and was able to go out there and get that victory, lock himself into the playoffs. Ty Majeski led the last 56 laps of the race on his way to victory. Christian Eckes was second, won both stages, led the most laps. Grant Enfinger was third, led those 2 drivers at 144 laps on the day. So all 3 leaders were up front. Tyler Ankrum, fourth. Lane Riggs with the top 5. Sammy Smith driving for Spire, finished 6th. Luke Fenhouse in another Thor Sport truck finished 7th. So he was the second best Thor Sport truck actually on the day. Raja Cruz started on pole, but didn't really have the pace during the race. Finished 8th. Dean Thompson, Nick Sanchez rounding out the top 10. Ross Chastain in his last start of the season finished 11th because the last race of the regular season, which will be at Richmond in 3 weeks' time, and then the playoffs, no Cup regular can run. So that was his last run there. William Sawalich and Chase Purdy, the last 2 trucks on the lead lap. You had Corey Heim, who was up there, ended up a lap down, got stage points. Matt Crafton got stage points in stage 2, finished 24th. And then Daniel Dye finished 27th. So, trying to look at where are we at? Yeah, Connor Daly ran for Nice and finished 29th. So, yeah, I mean, this race was pretty straightforward. Eckes was up there, got into it with his title rival. Corey Heim freaked out about it. Sounds a lot like fish lips. But in the end, Christian Eckes, it's a rare instance where it wasn't Corey Heim or Christian Eckes, but it's Ty Majeski, who always seems to put himself in position, Josh, for a championship. It's got to be, it's part of his driving style, of course, but I think also just coming from the late model, super late model world of having to save your stuff around a bunch of people who are not like that, and just being consistent like an old school driver, it really does pay off, especially in spots like this when you're trying to get to where you're trying to move towards the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you're right with Majeski. Is I think he's a very patient driver overall, but his driving style kind of keeps him in play here, and he finally gets a win, which he's locked in already on points, but able to finally win here. And last year, of course, in this race, ended up running fairly dominant, but this one not till the final stage did he take the lead and finally able to get a win this year. So make him have more momentum for playoffs with only one race left here at Richmond in a few weeks, but we'll see how it is here. But I think the other aspect of this is how he was able to race against Christian Eckes. He used Thad Moffitt kind of as a pick, get past Christian Eckes there, turns 1 and 2. 16 laps in that final stage, so led the final 56 laps there, and definitely won that race. But it's a big win for him, but also now gives him momentum here. But I think the other thing you have to talk about is Christian Eckes and Corey Heim, which they had their dust up there, which led to the Corey Heim getting a flat tire, and then we saw the confrontation online with him and Christian Eckes, which those two guys are the two guys in the playoffs that we think are going to be there at the end in Phoenix. Both of them have had exceptional seasons, and Christian Eckes is going to be more than likely going to be the regular season champion, 50 points over Corey Heim. So there's definitely a lot at play there, but I think as the year winds down, we'll see how well they'll respect each other on the track, and could that incident be a factor in how they race each other going forward. So that's definitely something to consider, and especially we saw how the title ended last year with how they raced against each other, and it definitely could be a factor again with two of the top guys there. So Yeah, just something to consider for Corey Heim there, Christian Eckes. But yeah, definitely an entertaining race, and I guess Truck Series also getting another break here after many breaks that they've had seemingly, and now getting another one because of the Olympics, and suddenly they'll be in the playoffs. After Richmond, so one more race, I guess, and we'll see if somebody can get in, or if the grid, which honestly I don't think the grid will change, so this is probably the playoff field going forward.
Yeah, you'd need a Hail Mary, essentially. Ankrum, Taylor Gray, and Grant Enfinger are all pretty solid points-wise. I think they're going to go for stage points and give themselves a cushion. Ben Rhodes does have a bit of a sweat, the defending series champion. Tanner Gray is only 5 points out of Daniel Dye. It's bad enough that Michael Waltrip jerks off to Daniel Dye, but now they're probably going to have even more coverage of him at Richmond because he's in the mix for the points. Stu Ball is minus 16, even though I can barely remember him actually running well most at any point this season. So that's really a case of, I guess, the depth of the field that he has been able to put himself in a position when he hasn't really done much of anything to be in a position to possibly make it in on points. After that, you're asking for a lot of help. Matt Crafton being the first of those people, the 3-time series champion, only behind or for. Is it 3? I'm forgetting offhand, but number of championships. He's the only. Yeah, he's got 3 because the only person that's ahead of him is, of course, Ron Hornaday Jr. But Crafton for years has just been kind of holding on for dear life. He's not really competitive, and right now, basically, after you get past Stuart Friesen, anybody from Crafton on would have to win to get in. That counts, some of these drivers, like, of course, Lane Riggs being one of them, Jake Garcia, Purdy Thompson. After that, I mean, even Dean Thompson's that's not really a thing, or Purdy really. After you get past those guys, I mean, most of the people after that, they're not going to win. Crafton, I don't remember the last time Matt Crafton won a race, so you need to win a race, and I think the only one of those people that I really think, and I mean, to be fair, it's not went very well this year for Lane Riggs, but in a Hail Mary situation on a short track where, of course, Front Row Motorsports, plenty of years of experience there, Scott Riggs being there, all the different things that are in play, they may put a full court press on that to try to get that backdoor victory and affect the playoff standings, which would then knock Tanner Gray out, and as of now, and Ben Rhodes would go and barely, 6, 7, 8, It would be, if it was a 6th winner, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, he would be the 10th driver there. So we'll see what happens with that, though, in a few weeks' time. Indy cars ran at Toronto for the Honda Indy, which has been going on since the 80s. And it was basically a Colton Herta benefit from the start of the weekend, and it never really stopped. So it was a great result for him. led basically the majority of the race. There were a lot of cautions late. There was 2 cautions early and then 3 cautions late. In the race, only 12 cars finished on the lead lap. Colton Herta gets the victory over Kyle Kirkwood, who started the 2 front row starters. Scott Dixon from 15th finished 3rd. Alex Palou 18th to 4th. And then Marcus Armstrong giving the Ganassi team 3 cars in the top 5. Hondas took the top 7 spots in the field in the finishing results, with David Malukas getting another fast 6 and finishing 6th. Christian Lundgaard, the defending race winner, finished 7th after starting 16th. Rinus VeeKay, the highest running Chevy car, in 8th. Romain Grosjean finished 9th. And then Green Rehal in 10th. Joseph Newgarden in 11th. And then William Power, who had avoidable contact and had to serve a drive-through, lost, I think, what was going to be a top 5 finish and finished 12th. That was Will Power ended up getting into Scott McLaughlin and knocking him out of the race. So yeah, that was that. Teo Porcher ended up getting called by Arrow McLaren because Alexander Rossi crashed in practice and broke his thumb. And he flew from France to get in the car and made a day of it. Actually finished 14th, so basically a top half finish for him with very little running. Mentioned McLaughlin finishing 16th. Pato O'Ward was involved in a massive incident. He spun out coming out of turn 1, and then Root Beer Floathead launched himself like Tony Hawk's skateboard at the X Games, flipped his car over, caused a red flag. You had Pato O'Ward, you had Nolan Siegel, Ferrucci, Marcus Ericsson, Pietro Fittipaldi, and Toby Sowery were all involved in that incident. Pato O'Ward, who was in the points, or at least in the discussion for the points, lost a lot of ground, is now 71 points out of the championship, heading into their break, of course, because they're also on NBC. And so it's going to be very difficult for him to go and possibly win a first IndyCar title. Go through some of these other people. Christian Rasmussen got crashed in lap 1. Contact with Root Beer Floathead and also Marcus Ericsson. Agustin Canapino and Scott Dixon had issues. Then Stingray Robb, after flipping through the air at Iowa last week, ends up having mechanical problems. Felix Rosenqvist also had mechanical problems. Since, of course, it's Felix Rosenqvist, he would have problems. He has no luck whatsoever. But it was, there was some late drama, but Colton Herta had the pace the whole weekend, Josh, and like his car owner, Michael Andretti, so many times at Toronto, Colton Herta went out there and dominated and got a much-needed victory over 2 years since his last victory. So maybe he could go and put up a late run to possibly get a championship if he can keep that momentum after the break.
Yeah, I think for Colton Herta, definitely one of the dominating wins of his career, of course. Go back to, I think the other one that I think of with his dominance, go back to what he did at St. Petersburg in 2021, and this one's just as dominant as that race one, which I witnessed in person there. But yeah, this race here, I mean, led all but 3 laps or 4 laps in the race and thoroughly dominated. And definitely, no, I don't think there was ever a point where it was a question of whether he wasn't going to win or not. So definitely, it was a good race for him, of course. And I mean, you talk about the points championship. Yeah, he's in 4th place, so only 57 back in the championship. So there's definitely room for opportunity. With how the ovals are shaping up, Colton, he's definitely had some runs, maybe not the finishes, but he's definitely ran good on ovals and in the past. And with Gateway coming up here next month, he ran pretty well there a few years ago, but wasn't able to finish that, of course. I think he'll do pretty good at Milwaukee and Nashville. So if he's able to put together a series of races here within the next 2 months, we think we could possibly look at a scenario where when we get down to the title race here in Nashville in September, could possibly be up there for possibly being the title, as usually there's at least 2 or 3 drivers that have the mathematical eligibility to be the IndyCar champion. So if he walks into that scenario, it's definitely possible. So something to consider here. Even though on wins, he hasn't had he's only had 1 win so far this one, and not as dominant as Alex Blow, but maybe we're seeing the rise here of Colton Herta. But I think for the rest of the race, I mean, obviously I think the big story being or outside of that, the highlight of Ferrucci going on his lid there, which I think a lot of the focus there is the lack of, or seemingly inability to put out a local yellow, which, looking on social media, apparently on Twitter, apparently one of the marshals said that they had the yellow out, but I guess maybe race control hadn't thrown out the yellow or made it clear that there was a local yellow or something. So definitely a lack of coordination for sure, lack of communication on I guess all ends there. But definitely shows kind of the risks there with street course racing, and if car is stuck and can't go, then it's definitely at least should be a local yellow, if not a full course yellow there. And then of course we saw everybody else going through at full speed, and then McLaren with Pato O'Ward and Nolan Siegel get taken out in one wreck, and Santino of course goes on his side there. So 2 weeks in a row we see AJ Foyt racing car go on its lid. So definitely sure they're not happy about that there, but definitely a lot of repairs to be made there in the shop, of course. But I think it does show the danger and everything. And we talked about it with the Cup race and how the caution, when should the caution come out, what is a caution. I mean, there's definitely scenarios where it's appropriate to throw the yellow, and maybe this was one of them, because you definitely don't want to put safety in the risk there. So definitely there probably could have been that opportunity as well. So hopefully they can fix that going forward and everything. And we'll see. We'll see if there are further issues. I guess the other thing to talk about is Scott McLaughlin and Will Power getting into it late, which Penske teammates having a good run, and then Will goes for a late move and then pushes his teammate into the wall. So that's definitely bad form there from Will, which definitely would think that he'd respect his fellow countrymen there going for position, and not only his teammate, but I guess Will made a mistake there, which feel like Will Power is one of those guys that would, at this point in his career, would make calculated moves, and that one definitely wasn't. So definitely have to reconsider that. I'm sure the meetings that they're probably be like, don't ever do that again. But Will Power, of course, made that move and kind of ruined what was a good run for Penske's up until that point. So definitely a bad move there. But yeah, Colton getting the win, of course, and yeah, definitely I think it adds a different wrinkle here to this IndyCar championship.
Yeah, I mean, that going and having that incident, it affected the Penske guys, and in general, the Penskes didn't have the best result that they were looking for going into this break, trying to make Alex Palou pay after he qualified 18th. You had Scott Dixon qualifying 15th as well. Two guys that are at the top of the mix for the championship, and they had the opportunity to kind of bury both of them. Did not do so, and Pato O'Ward, through not all of his doing, ends up basically getting eliminated. But it's gonna be something now that we're going into these last few races. After the break, it'll start with the Gateway, Portland, 2 races at Milwaukee, and then Nashville Super Speedway in the span of a month. So this will be a really quick end to the year once they get back going again. So 4 ovals and 1 permanent road course, 1 flat 1 mile oval and the Milwaukee Mile. You have the relatively flat Gateway with 2 distinct corners. Then you have Nashville, which is a concrete 1 1/3 mile racetrack. So that'll all different racetrack, all different types of ovals there, leading into the end of the season. Alex Palou has gotten 10 top 5s in 12 races, which is absolutely ridiculous. He leads the points by 38 and 49 points over Will Power. Then you add 53 to Scott Dixon, and then 57 to Colton Herta. So I mentioned 71 to Pato O'Ward in 5th. Scott McLaughlin in 6th. Kyle Kirkwood 7th. Nearly 100 points behind Kyle Kirkwood is. So it's going to be difficult for him for sure in terms of laps led. McLaughlin is well ahead in that at the moment. Palou is 2nd, and then Colton Herta is 3rd. In terms of top 10 finishes, Kirkwood actually is tied with Alex Palou for the most top 10s. But then when you look at most top 5s after Palou, Dixon has the most. So interesting there. All those guys, everybody in the top 6 has a win. 7 of the top 8 have a win, Kirkwood being the lone exception to that. Alexander Rossi missed the race, but is still in 9th. Root Beer Floathead is 2 points ahead of Lundgaard, 9 points ahead of Marcus Ericsson, 10 points out of Felix Rosenqvist. So that's an interesting battle. Marcus Armstrong and VK and Grosjean, Ray Hall, all are relatively close by. They're within around 35 points there, 34 points. So that can change. That battle for the 10th and final spot there could go any number of ways with the last 5 races that they're going to have. The rookie battle I think Armstrong is considered a rookie, so Armstrong right now would have the lead over Lundqvist, and then you have Pietro Fittipaldi, Kiffin Simpson, Christian Rasmussen. Trying to see. Yeah, they don't bother to list it based on. Oh yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, Linus Lundqvist actually. Oh, all right. So Linus Lundqvist is a rookie, or yeah, I mean, in terms it isn't Marcus Armstrong. That was last year. So Lundqvist has a 40-point lead over his teammate Kiffin Simpson for the rookie battle. And it basically is those two. Really, Rasmussen is only gonna run one more race, so he's basically done. Pourchaire, we don't know if he's gonna run again. Siegel will race the rest of the season, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. But Linus Lundqvist essentially has that locked up there. All right, so got through IndyCar. Now we will move to the Formula One race, the Hungarian Grand Prix. Interesting one in that there was it's a 2 pit stop race. And that in its own right made it more intriguing than what it might have been otherwise. And Oscar Piastri goes out there and gets the start and puts himself in a position to go and get his first career Formula One victory at the Hungaroring, a place where there's been many drivers that have won their first career race. Oscar Piastri over Lando Norris, giving McLaren a 1-2 finish. Lewis Hamilton was in third. Charles Leclerc was fourth. Fishlips was fifth. Carlos Sainz sixth. Sergio Perez in seventh. George Russell in eighth. Both of those guys had to start from the tailback. Yuki Tsunoda and Nepo Stroll round out the top 10. Alonso was the last car on the lead lap, and they told him team orders to go and let Lance Stroll go. And then Lance Stroll did not give him back the position at the end of the race, unlike Lando Norris, who did comply and played the game to where Oscar Piastri was able to get that maiden Formula One victory. And I mean, there was a lot going on during the day. McLaren probably butchered strategy. Lando Norris, of course, screwed up another start, which opened the door for the likes of Fishlips and others to be in this race. But, I mean, credit to Oscar Piastri. He's one of the best young talents there's been in Formula One in a long time. He's been on the cusp. He did win the sprint race at Qatar last fall, kind of showing this potential. And now he's put it all together on a Sunday to get that first career victory, albeit with some interesting methodologies for that to actually come to fruition in the end after they had made a mistake with their pit strategy, Josh.
Yeah, the kind of the team orders deal coming, to fruition here, and with Piastri winning, which I think he's good enough to win on his own. So, he led the race for a good portion throughout the beginning of the race, and led in the middle portions as well. So yeah, at least he was up front for the most part. But yeah, this is really interesting how the team orders dynamic can work in this because Lando was in the lead here for the most part, and we know that they're at least up until now, we've known that Lando's kind of the driver A at McLaren, and Piastri is the his teammate. I mean, I think they're pretty similar, but now, but we know that it seems like Lando's like number one guy and everything. But it's interesting that they do this because Lando does have still a chance to catch up to Max Verstappen in points here for the championship. But Norris, of course, still has a shot there. But then the pit stop, they didn't do the pit stop correctly, and the undercut allowed Norris to take the lead. And then he was instructed to give it back to Piastri in the closing stages. Then he debating the situation with the team. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see how team orders play out, and you've seen it in the past, and that's one of the criticisms of Formula One is where these situations come about, and they asks the driver in front to lay way for the their driver behind him and everything, and there's definitely a lot of questions there, and obviously here in the States, we don't really do it like that. And if the situations were here, say IndyCar or NASCAR, Lando Norris probably is given the okay to win the race. But the way this works in Formula One, the Piastri goes and gets his first win, which I have to give you credit here. You picked him on our picks last week and actually got that one. So yeah, prognosticating there this week. But the points championship, of course, if Lando wins the race, that's 7 extra points that he has to gain on Max Verstappen, which he's 76 points back right now with the summer break coming up after the Belgian Grand Prix. So there's still time if they're able to, but at the end of the year, if you go back to looking at this, it's another, several mistakes that they've made where Lando could have, possibly been in shot of having the championship at the end of the year, because, if they come close, but they're not there yet, it's like, well, all those points that we lost out on by, failing to win a race either through strategy or through like this, it definitely shows, kind of a lack of, I guess, foresight and awareness to, being able to go out and win, possibly steal the drivers' championship from Verstappen there. So that, that's definitely kind of interesting, but at least we get to kind of see 2 first-time winners in Formula One this season, both from McLaren, which I feel like that's kind of rare to see two guys both being their first career wins, and also both coming from the same team. So that's definitely kind of interesting to see. And then also, I think the podium with Hamilton there as well. You have 3 guys who have driven for McLaren at some point in their careers. So that's interesting there. So with Hamilton, of course, and his stuff with Verstappen there, which that's another situation on its own, and I guess the steward's not taking further action on that. But I think that's, I don't know, I guess maybe that's Verstappen's fault there or something. But that's I guess that's the view on the stewards. And then I guess maybe Max was tired or something, from doing 3 stints in the 24 hours of Spa in iRacing. So because I was looking at that earlier, and I guess he, in between qualifying and the race itself, I think he did a 3 stints in a row for his sim racing team overnight. So that's pretty funny, honestly. So to see that, but now, of course, ends up finishing in 5th here in this race. So we'll see how that affects him later on. But yeah, definitely not the weekend that he wanted for sure. But yeah, Piastri going out, getting his first win, at least it's nice to see somebody else besides Max Verstappen actually win here in Formula One.
Yeah, it's nice to not have to see him up front. It's also kind of funny to see him melt down when he actually has to race. Somebody improving once again that no matter how many wins a guy has and the advantages that he's had, he seems to be a dart without feathers when he actually has to race somebody. So, he got that from his dad, that's for sure, along with the lack of awareness, and basically being an arrogant prick. But yeah, whatever. 76-point lead on 60, 70, 76 on Lando Norris, and then Charles Leclerc near over 100 points behind, 103. But the battle between Leclerc, Sainz, and Piastri are only separated by 13 points. Sainz is 8 points behind his teammate. Lewis Hamilton with the podium passes Sergio Perez in points. And then George Russell's in 8th, 11 or 9 points behind Hamilton, and 8 points behind Perez. Alonso, even with the result from yesterday, still 21 points ahead of Stroll there for 9th and 10th. But Stroll does have a battle with Nico Hülkenberg and Yuki Tsunoda for that final spot in the top 10. So we'll see what happens with that. In terms of the constructors, was it 61? Yeah, 51. My bad. 51 points lead Red Bull over McLaren. And McLaren has 16-point lead on Ferrari for second. And then Ferrari's got a huge lead on Mercedes at 59, 79, 81. Yeah, 81 points. So yeah, that's, and then Mercedes is well out in front of Aston Martin. So the top 5 essentially, basically, I mean, the first and second could change. First, second, and third has their opportunities, really. Second and third, then fourth and fifth are locked in, probably. The Toro Rosso team is 6th. Haas is only 6 points behind them. Alpine in 8th, 5 points out of Williams, and then Slobber rounding out the rear with no points. All right, so got through all of those things, so that means it's time for the roundup. So let's see. So 42. I'm trying to go and see how long it takes me today. Trying to keep the timing up in regards to the roundup. Formula 2 race there, and oh wow, Kushmini. Oh, there you go. That's cool. So Indian driver Kushmini going and getting victory in the sprint, it looks like there. So standings. Yeah, so I'm trying to get the results, sorry. There, that's a way to go and make it go quicker. So the sprint race at Budapest saw Kushmini get the victory over Kushmini over Victor Martins and Isaac Hadjar. Dennis Hauger, Franco Colapinto rounding out the top 5. Paul Aaron, Taylor Barnard, Juan Manuel Correa, Jack Crawford, the 2 Dams drivers 8th and 9th. Ollie Bierman in 10th. I'm going to go through any of them other ones. Yeah, no. So that's a credit to Kushmaini getting that victory. Then in the feature race, Andrea Kimi Antonelli gets the win for Prema, his second victory of this season, first in a feature. Victor Martins in second, Richard Vachor in third, Gabriel Bortoleto and Enzo Fittipaldi fourth and fifth. Hauger, Miney, Ritomo Miata, Barnard and Villa Gomez rounding out the top 10. Correa and Crawford were 16th and 17th. Isaac Hadjar had a brutal day, finished 18th. The standings heading to Spa. Isaac Hadjar, even with the poor weekend, still outscored Paul Aaron by 2 points, so his lead now is 18. Gabriel Bortoleto gained 5 points on Hadjar, now is only 30 points back. Zane Maloney has had a very, after the Sakir weekend where he won the feature, he's had one, I think, decent scoring weekend there in Melbourne in the feature, and then Silverstone a couple weeks ago. Otherwise, it's a bunch of nothing. Colapinto, Antonelli now up to 6th, Crawford in 7th, Kushmaini up to 9th there in the point standings, or Bierman, who's going to Formula, he's 14th, Correa 16th. Well, that is that. In terms of Formula 3, the results of the races at Budapest, Nikita Bedrin gets the sprint race victory, and then Nikola Zoloff in the feature race. So Bedrin over Itra Puvasak, so an AIX 1-2, Beganovic third. We're going to go through some of these other people. Stenshore, I think, Max Easterston was 16th. Sebastian Montoya was 19th. So that is, for race, the sprint. And then in the feature, Zoloff over Leon, Luca Fornaroli, Christian Mansell, and Ramos. And Easterson was 15th in that race. So, okay. Yeah, so trying to go through, so I'm going to put the flag, so Swedish, Beganovic is Swedish. Oh, okay. And then, they don't make it easy to go and find any of this damn information. It's annoying. Okay. So I'm going to leave that alone and move forward. The standings for Formula 3, they only have 2 races left. They have Spa and then Monza after they come back from the break. And Gabriele Mini has a 4-point lead on Browning. Arvin Lindblad is 6 points back in third. Luca Fornaroli is 7 points back in fourth. So 4-driver battle there. One of the great tough circuits in the world in Spa-Francorchamps for the weekend coming up. You have Mansell, Beganovic, and Gotha also essentially, they're also still around, still 30 points separating the top 7. So still plenty to play for with 2 rounds, 4 total races left in Formula 3. Okay, so NHRA at Seattle for the first half of the Western Swing. Pro Stock Motorcycle, a miracle happened. Gage Herrera actually didn't win, so that's nice. Chase Van Zandt gets his first career victory at Seattle, along with Jed Coughlin Jr. in Pro Stock, and funny car was Austin Prock and for John Force Racing, and then Steve Torrance gets the win in Top Fuel. Wow, Maddie Gordon, 100th woman to win an NHRA national event. So credit to her and Top Alcohol Funny Car. That's a huge milestone, and so that credit to her on that. The point standings going into with a few races to go, Doug Coletta leads his teammate Sean Langdon by 120 points. Steve Torrance moves up to third, Justin Ashley fourth, Antron Brown fifth. Tony Stewart lost to Jasmine Salinas in the first round, stays ninth in the standings. And Funny Car, Austin Prock continues to lead. He's up by nearly 260 points, 256 on Hagen and Tasca. J.R. Todd, John Force, even with missing races, is still fifth. Ron Capps, Daniel Wilkerson, Blake Alexander, DeJoria Paul Lee. Battle between DeJoria all the way to Chad Green, who's outside of the top 10. Even Blake Alexander is only 21 points ahead in eighth, so there's actually a pretty tight race there between those four drivers. In Pro Stock, Dallas Glenn has a 138-point lead over Greg Anderson. Enders is in third. 13 points behind Anderson. Then Aaron Stanfield, Jed Coughlin in the top five. And, I mentioned Pro Stock Motorcycle. Chase Van Zandt moves up to fourth. 30 points behind Richard Gadsden. Matt Smith is in second, nearly 300 points behind, and has threatened to take his 5-bike team out of the Pro Stock Motorcycle class. They only had 12 bikes at the Pacific Raceway this past weekend at the Northwest Nationals. So if they take those 5 away, then I don't even know how you can really call it a series. At that point, they'll be racing at Sonoma this coming weekend for the second half of the Western Swing before they take a few weeks off and they'll take a break as well before they go and head to Brainerd. World Superbikes at Autodromo Most. WS. I can't type. That's great. World Superbikes. Baptiste, we were speaking to Kai. That's right. The results at the Czech Republic. Toprak Raskatlioku gets a clean sweep. So second or third weekend in a row that Toprak Raskatlioku has taken a clean sweep of all the races. In race 1, he beat Danilo Petrucci and Andre Iannone. Then in a sprint race, or Super Pole race, Raskatlioku wins over Baliga and Alex Lowe's. Then in race 2, it was Raskatlioku, Baliga, and Locatelli. The point standings is 64 point lead for Raskatlioku over Nicola Baliga. Alvaro Bautista's in third, Alex Lowe's in fourth, Andrea Locatelli running out the top 5. Garrett Gerloff right now is in 13th. what does it work out to be? 25 points out of the top 10. No, that's and BMW is a 7-point lead on Ducati for the manufacturers championship. I'm going to look through. I don't even know who any of those people are. Simona Corsi is actually in World Supersport. Marcel Schroeder, another guy who was in Moto 2. I'm pretty sure that none of them are. So there's that in terms of World Superbikes, Supercars. Yeah, there you go. Repco Supercars Championship. Dave Tanner split over Monster title credentials. Well, it's easy to say because there's a big gap, but doesn't mean that he can't come around. He's been in the mix before, but hasn't really had the chance. This is the best chance he's probably had in his career. 105 points back at the moment, in second of Will Brown, behind Will Brown and Red Bull. Brock Feeney in third. And then Cam Waters, a bunch of Fords, 4 Fords to be exact, in Waters, Matthew Payne, Will Davis, and Thomas Randall. Then Golding, Nick Percat, Anton Di Pasquale rounding out the top 10. The winner of the last two, or the top 10, yeah, so the races, Chaz Mostert gets the sweep of the weekend at Eastern Creek there. So so that's that for Supercars. WRC Rally Latvia, go and look at that. Rally Latvia took place. It's loading slowly. Tana, praise of the last stage won't dim, says results and standings. The Cali Rovampera gets another victory, back-to-back victories for him. Rovampera won by 39 point. I'm trying to get the overall final result. Yeah, so Rovampera over Ogier by 39.2 seconds. Toyota 1-2. Tanak finishes third. Adrian Formeau is fourth. Efren Evans gives Toyota 3 of the top 5. And Takamoto Katsuda, 4 of the top 6 there. Martin 6 for Ford was a 7th overall, second Ford there. And, Oliver Solberg won Rally 2, was 2, it was 3 minutes back of the last Rally 1 car that was running in Gregoire Munster. The results of championship standings heading to the calendar. And that's so heading to Rally Finland in just over a week's time. The championship standings at the moment, Thierry Neuville still leads the points by 8 over Tanak right now. So Hyundai has the top 2. Efren Evans is 13 points back in third. Ogier, who's only run 5 races, 5 rounds, is in fourth. Adrian Formeau is in fifth. Cali Rovampera, who's only run 5 races himself, is in sixth. Katsuda in 7th. 8 points between first and second, 13 points first through third. Still somewhat competitive. Ogier, out there, even though he's not going to run every single race. So, Formula E had their season finale in London in the in car park or whatever the hell. They have the Expo Center there. And Pascal Wehrlein ends up winning the driver's title. He'd been up there a good amount of the years, so it's not surprising that Pascal Wehrlein goes out there and gets the championship. We'll go back, though. Wehrlein gets the win in race 1 over Mitch Evans, Sebastian Buemi, Nick De Vries, and Eduardo Mortara give Mahindra 4th and 5th place finishes. Nico Muller, Nick Cassidy, Sam Bird, Stoffel Van Dorn, Norman Nato rounding out the top 10 there. And then in race 2, Oliver Rowland, Pascal Wehrlein, who also had the fastest lap, and then Mitch Evans rounding out the podium finishers. Buemi, Jean-Eric Verne, Nico Muller, Robin Frein, Stoffel Van Dorn, Luca de Grassi, Jake Hughes. So you got 4 former champions there in the top 10. And Nick Cassidy scored Jay Underoos. So the final point standings in Formula E, Pascal Wehrlein wins the championship by 6 points over Mitch Evans. And Nick Cassidy finishes 3rd, so Jaguar gets 2nd and 3rd. Probably puts him in a good place to win the Constructors. Oliver Rowland, with his win in the final race, moves himself up to 4th. John-Eric Verne 5th. Antonio Felix da Costa was 6th. Jake Dennis, defending world champion, scores no points in either race. In his last race, as the world champion Max Gunther, Robin Frein, Stoffel Van Dorn, rounding out the top 10. And then the last thing I want to mention briefly was the King's Royal. I'm wearing my Rico Abreu shirt because Rico Abreu had won one of the preliminary nights at the King's Royal at Eldora at his buddy Tony Stewart's track. And definitely thought he had a chance to go out there and win the King's Royal, but struggled in the main event. In the A-main there on Saturday night, finished 18th. David Gravel, local boy from Connecticut, goes and gets the win. It's one of the rare instances where the high limit drivers are racing against the World of Outlaws guys. It's because of course, the big money, $150,000. Gravel over Donnie Schatz, Justin Peck rounding out the podium, Logan Schuhart, Jacob Allen rounding out the top 5, Emerson Axum, Sheldon Onshield, Zeb Wise, Brent Marks, and Buddy Kofoid rounding out the top 10. I mentioned Rico finished 18th, Brady Bacon position ahead of him, Brian Brown position behind him. So that was the King's Royal, at least the A-main finale during Saturday night there. All right, so let's move forward to, I think that might be one of the quicker ones I've ever done. I'll give myself a pat on the back for that. Belgian Grand Prix preview. It's a racetrack, of course, one of the fastest, one of the most picturesque. And very challenging weather conditions. It's such a big track. You could be dry in one part of the track and then raining in another. It's used to be one of the most dangerous circuits, but now, of course, with all the current day safety innovations, and the World Endurance Championship has definitely tested that in recent years with some of the crashes they've had. So that is, that's kind of the build up there. Josh, you get first dibs. I mean, it's a circuit that that everyone wants to win at because of how good how challenging it is and how great of a track it is. But what do you think for this weekend after the recent form for McLaren? Is it a McLaren weekend, or does Red Bull come back with fish lips? Does Ferrari come back for the first time in a while, or can Mercedes even go out there and get the win?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not going to say it's wide open, but I think right now it's about as wide open as it's ever been in the last few years. But I'm thinking this week, Lando Norris, I think they kind of make things right and get him the win this weekend. I'm going to say second. I'm actually going to say Lewis Hamilton finishes in second. I think, they possibly get it done there. And then also, I would say Piastri third. So another weekend of the same drivers. So this might honestly be the first time I've ever in our picks, going back to 2021 where I did not pick Max Verstappen in the picks for Formula One race. But yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how many times we haven't picked him between the two of us, but this isn't going to be one of those times for me not to win. I don't think he's going to win the race. I think I do agree with you that Lando goes out there and gets the win. A few years ago, he crashed while trying to qualify on pole in that crazy weather conditions, that if he had been able to put that lap together and get it back around, would have ended up winning his first Grand Prix, which would have also affected that championship that year. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Norris to win. I'm going to go with George Russell in second and Fish Lips in third. So those are our picks for the Belgium. We don't know what the Belgian Grand Prix, we don't know what Spa will bring in terms of weather ever. So it could change during this session. It can change within a couple of minutes, and it doesn't have to be around the whole racetrack either. So a lot to look at, with the summer break coming along. What will some of these teams have in store? Will there be any upgrades or any type of improvements, since Spa is one of the more lower downforce tracks, not the lowest downforce by any means, but it's a compromise of having to run higher levels of downforce, and then with all the straights having to run lower downforce, so trying to find that right balance. Okay, so we'll hold off on the football till next week, since we're kind of running short time-wise later doing this, so we'll have more time next week to talk about football, since there won't be that much racing. But before we go, Josh, let us know what's going on in the world of iRacing, and also with your exploits in the Brickyard 400.
Yeah. Well, first I have to say, I mean, yeah, it's fine with NFL, but Jaguars throwback unis, I gotta get one now. So gotta figure out which one I want. I want all of them, but I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, that's that. Anything that goes with retro, and those Jaguars jerseys were sweet. I saw them, and it just brought me back to Mark Brunell and Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell and et cetera, et cetera. Natron Means and
Patreon
the
means
whole,
business.
yeah, that all those guys, um, Kevin Hardy, there's so many guys. Like I kind of like underground rooted for Jacksonville, even though I wasn't really a big fan of Tom Coughlin because I just thought they were cool. But also I think it's because Mark Brunell's a lefty, and of course I was a Steve Young fan, so I always had an affinity for left-handed quarterbacks, so that could run. So yeah, I mean that those jerseys are gonna be fire. I don't know. You got plenty to choose from. Probably we can't go wrong with 16 there, but there's also other options there, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, I mean, I already have I have a Trevor, just regular teal jersey, but I mean, I'm thinking probably Josh Allen or Fred Taylor, because I think those are two guys you want to go with, or maybe even Maurice Jones-Drew if I can find one, if they make one, there. But yeah, I mean, for me, like, I'm not really a big jersey guy, but I think for legendary players or players that have kind of cemented themselves as cornerstones of the franchise, and are big role in the team and the community, I think I'd go with Josh Allen, or Josh Hines Allen as he's being called now, which I guess he's done so good that he's decided to give back quarterback Josh Allen his name back. So definitely interesting name change there. But so either him or Fred Taylor probably, or MJD. But we'll see how that goes. And I guess, I mean, I know they have the Fred Taylor ones. I think you can buy online now, and the Josh Allen ones they gotta, because of the name change, I think they gotta remake them, because I think they said it's not available until like August 16 for shipment and everything. So we'll see. And I mean, there's all the different tiers of NFL jersey too, so something to think about there. But yeah, anyways, though, the sim segment, of course, with iRacing, with that, yeah, of course, ran the Indy Brickyard 400 on iRacing. So this past weekend, of course, in the next gen car, definitely ran a few times in the stock car, trying to figure out the line to run, and trying to find a setup to use. And I was able to find one that would work for me late Saturday night. So said, okay, we'll wake up on Sunday morning and run the Brickyard 400 at 10 a.m., which I was able to do. Started 7th and finished 5th. It was definitely hard on the beginning of the race with restarts and starts, because I was on the outside, or I was on the inside, and then just being able to hold the inside, off of, like, early in the race, especially off of turn 1, turn 2. There's a couple times where definitely felt a little loose and couldn't hold the line, get it overtaken, and then on the outside line, as beginning of the race, when the first couple of restarts that they had, outside line was hard to hold. But especially coming off of the backstretch, you wanted to be on the inside, because it was hard to, there's only one line at Brickyard, as we talked about in the NASCAR, but definitely it's hard to hold the outside, and so you have to get to the bottom as soon as possible. But so that was kind of the struggle, the beginning of the race with that. And then also there was one part where caution happened, and then I took damage trying to avoid the wreck and ran into the back of somebody, but somehow I was able to get repaired and everything and come back and finished 5th. Also doored a couple of guys on accident, one because I got distracted and had somebody texting me about something, and then trying to, answer that because it was one of those time sensitive ones to answer back and everything. But, I had to go through that, and then, getting into a couple of people, and going to turn 3, but, survived that. But, had one instance where I had to go to the restroom during part of it. So I just, during one of the cautions, I made the decision to get up out of my chair and, take care of business and everything. And still had enough time to get back and, get into the car and go, without losing a lap or anything. So, didn't, I say it because, I had to give up my time and, basically go to the back of the field at that point. So, definitely had to, do that. But, the, getting through there and passing everybody, definitely had to go through, to do that. But, the Indy 500 already having won that, was trying to go for the win in the, Brickyard 400. And, with, the end of the race there, last run, green flag run before pit stops, I was able to make it all the way up into third, and was still maybe a few seconds back. And then last pit stop came around, fell back a couple of spots. I guess whoever pit in front of me came out ahead of me on there. But then, trying to race for the win, or race, to position myself for the win. The guys that were running up there with me, was racing with them a little bit, and then had a couple of cautions come out at the end of the race to kind of even things out. So ended up finishing in 5th. Was trying to hang with the leaders there, but I don't know, I guess I somehow lost pace there at the end and ended up falling back pretty hard. But ended up in 5th place, like I said. So not a bad run for the first time running the Brickyard 400, and really, I think probably the first time I've completed a race in the next gen car with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on iRacing. So pretty good run there, of course, and hopefully continue as the Brickyard 400 is a thing in NASCAR again. Hopefully they make that a special event to continue on. So you have the opportunity to possibly go and win a crown jewel on the NASCAR side of iRacing there. So, and of course, another opportunity to win a full distance race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well. So, that was my exploit that this weekend. Of course, Max Verstappen's exploits, of course, as they mentioned on the broadcast, and we talked about it earlier. I had it pulled up on YouTube earlier, but was watching some of that briefly. But Max, I think, like I said earlier, he ran 3 stints. I think I think they said he did or at least in the comments it looks like 3 stints, like I said, but it's a triple stint, so it's pretty incredible for him to do. So, like I said, I thought it was funny that he did that, and it's like, iRacing is his main job, but then the F1 is just the one that just pays the bills and stuff, which I guess in a light is kind of similar to Kyle Larson, where I think we really know he's really a dirt guy, and NASCAR pays the bills, and he just happens to also be really good at racing in the stock car, of course. But that's, I guess, what sim racing is for Max Verstappen there. So I guess, Formula One drivers can't have the freedom to go race whenever they want, like IndyCar and NASCAR guys are able to. So I guess that's how he gets his fix in there. So I guess we're seeing that it's kind of affecting him though now. So we'll see how far that goes. But I think this week, of course, I guess there's a break, of course, in real life. So I guess IndyCar and NASCAR side, the schedule, I guess, is not as reflective of the real schedule as it usually is. But I guess the 87 car is at Martinsville this weekend. The iRacing Class B in Xfinity Series at Kentucky this weekend. The Cup Series at Auto Club, so that might be interesting. The fixed IndyCar Oval Series at Indianapolis, actually, or well, I don't know. Okay, at Indianapolis, so that might be fun to go and do. They're on the fixed oval only series there. Truck series at Daytona. So yeah, very, very diverse one this week, I guess, given that the schedule is deviating from real life here. And then I guess the regular IndyCar series at Brazil, Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace. So I guess there. So that's at Interlagos. So that's interesting there. And then the iRacing IndyCar iRacing Series. Well, I guess no, they're not at Gateway. That's in a couple of weeks from now, but it's just listed there, so they already got it loaded, I guess, on the schedule. So that's the oval racing. Definitely a lot of diversity there because of the break in the schedule. Road racing side, got some racing at Watkins Glen, MX5 at Lime Rock Park, which I think in real life they're actually having a throwback event coming up soon at Lime Rock. Bolton Park for the Rainmaster Ferrari Series. GR Cup at Brands Hatch. That might be fun. Spec Racers at Daytona. Let's see what else. What else is eligible? I don't see anything else, but that's interesting there. And on the Formula Car side, Formula V's at Laguna Seca, Formula Fords at Winton Motor Raceway, which I guess is in Australia, Formula Ford Rookie Series at Laguna Seca there. So we'll see about that. And I think, yeah, that's it for all those series and everything. But yeah, of course, I guess there'll be a lot of time to spend on iRacing this week, hopefully. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, of course, you can watch the stream for iRacing, of course, at UC2 on Twitch, which I have the Brickyard 400 on there streaming, and you can catch the replay of that on there and go back and see how I did. So you can see that, and of course, you can see all my tweets and everything at JP Huffine on Twitter. Of course, talking about the Brickyard 400 yesterday on Twitter, and sharing some of the highlights from that race, of course. You can find our channel at Gripstrip Podcast on YouTube and go on there and see everything that we have. And, subscribe and comment on our page or interact however you want. So, yeah, that's it for me this week. Glad that the Brickyard 400 is back and we can, watch that again, hopefully next year. And they're talking about it rotating with the road course. And I'm like, nah, we don't need to do that. Let's just stay on the oval and just, if you don't have a road course race, fine, but it should be a separate date from the Brickyard 400.
Yeah, I agree. Might as well. I think this car race is all right for what it is at the oval, so leave it be. And I think this car at the end of the day is not great on road courses because of how powerful it is in certain ways, like with the brakes and all. So we leave that deal alone, keep it on the oval, brought it back. It was good enough. So we will do that. So you can find me at PGMatthew28 on Twitter, PhilipGMatthew28 on Instagram, on Facebook, but I really don't go on there. PhilipGMatthew.com is the blog site. You can go and find the show there. Gripstrip Pod on Twitter, where we have that. It loads there. It also loads on my blog site. And Josh mentioned the YouTube page where you get the video feed. You can also go to my YouTube page and get the audio feed. So multiple ways to get the Gripstrip podcast. So definitely go and subscribe, listen, let your friends know. Now that we have this break, probably could look for some guests. Just a hint, considering we'll have some downtime, so that might be an opportunity to do some interviews. One specific interview to be for sure, if I can go and contact him and arrange it. But in the meantime, we thank you for listening to Gripster Podcast. We'll be back next week for episode 231. Talk about the Belgian Grand Prix and whatever else going on in racing. We'll also start talking about football since training camp will have started then. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening to Gripster Podcast, and we'll see you next time.